If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it ain't a damn mongoose.
That's StephenASmith live on national television, calling out an entire league. Not just one referee, not just one foul. For months, Caitlin Clark has absorbed hits, shoves, and rough treatment with almost no calls going her way. Then came the game against the Mercury, an obvious uncalled foul that left her hobbling off the court. And this time, one of the biggest voices in sports media wasn't willing to stay quiet about it.
Fight till the end. And there's a push. Whoa. There's a push and a talk by. Whoa. There's another push.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a competitive group, a veteran group. They've been around this for a long time. They're not afraid of the smoke.
No arguing with Nate Tibbetts' comments after Monday's game at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, when the Mercury and Fever combined for 6 technical fouls in the fourth quarter.
And there she is with the hands out.
And former Phoenix fan favorite Sophie Cunningham became a meme for her continued point at longtime X Factor fan favorite DeWanna Bonner.
She puts her knee directly between her legs into her groin.
Streaking to the basket, and here's what.
Look at that. Boom. Look at her put her knee into Caitlin Clark's groin right there on that play, right? I mean, this is gross right there.
Here's the play everyone's talking about. During a loose ball scramble, Alyssa Thomas kneed Clark in the thigh and made contact with her fist to Clark's throat. No foul was called in real time. Days later, the league reviewed it, upgraded it to a flagrant 2, and suspended Thomas for 1 game, plus a fine.
Josh, and it was this. Mercury forward Alyssa Thomas suspended for yesterday's game after her fist made contact with Clark's throat on Wednesday. Now, at the time, there was no call. As you know, the league then reviewed it. They upgraded it to a flagrant 2. That leads to the suspension. Mercury won that game, by the way. Here are Stephanie White and Nate Tibbetts, both head coaches, with reaction.
We have a generational talent and a WNBA superstar who had 2 cheap shots right there that weren't called.
Here's Smith in his own words.
Listen, I don't watch the WNBA extensively enough to say whether I agree or disagree. But I've often used the line, Shay, that I'll share with you because I don't know if I've ever used it while you've been on the air with me. If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it ain't a damn mongoose. I've said that many, many times over the years. There is a flagrant level of resentment that exists when it comes to Caitlin Clark. And it has existed since she has arrived in the league.
Smith didn't stop there. He called the 1-game suspension a joke, arguing the appropriate punishment was somewhere between 10 games and the rest of the season. And it's not just him. Indiana Fever president Kelly Krauskopf publicly thanked the league for the suspension, a comment that drew its own wave of criticism from fans who felt it was tone-deaf given what had happened. But Thomas tells a very different story about what happened next. Speaking to reporters days later, she called the play itself a complete accident and said that in the aftermath, she and her family were threatened and that she personally was called racial slurs. Her exact words, "There's a difference between trolling and there's a difference between hatred, and the hatred we're experiencing over a play that honestly was a complete accident is unacceptable."
Honestly, I didn't even know I was being suspended until 10 minutes before it was put on social media. We still have yet to hear anything from Kathy. It's no surprise. You can see what's being said on social media, and yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, but as usual, she remains silent, and that's unfortunate when, you know, our lives are being threatened.
I've been wondering when we would hear from Alyssa Thomas following the incident last Wednesday. It's hard to believe it's been almost a week. But yeah, last Wednesday when Caitlin Clark took a fist to the throat, Alyssa Thomas's fist, and her groin was kneed by Alyssa Thomas as well, and all the other things that were going on when Indiana played the Mercury last Wednesday.
Not everyone agreed with StephenASmith's take either. Even inside ESPN, this split the room. Just days before Smith's comments, fellow analyst Chiney Ogwumike had already downplayed the entire situation on air, saying the narrative was built on a freeze frame and that the outrage was, in her words, not necessarily foreign to players who understand the physical nature of the league.
And that's not the goal of any league, but this is the reality. And when you think about the imperative to call more fouls, we're seeing the highest scoring season ever in WNBA history. That's largely because they're calling more fouls, right? Games are no longer 2 hours, they're 2.5 hours long. So you're seeing that there's an imperative to call more fouls, but there's still a lack of situational awareness or a lack of control of the game by the refs. You can call fouls, but is it dictating how one game is played from the other? Because you can see one game where one is super physical and one where people are dropping 50. There's been a lack of consistency, and this creates a problem in magnifier matchups.
Commentator Jason Whitlock backed her up publicly, calling the idea that referees specifically target Clark a bogus claim. So even among people paid to analyze this for a living, there's no agreement on whether this is a real pattern or a manufactured one.
So there's a bunch of things you said. The closeout play where the woman is contesting Caitlin's shot. There was a foul called on that, and Caitlin went to the line and shot 3 free throws. What they didn't review is whether that was a reckless closeout, which would have required an additional foul or free throws. But there is a foul. That's why Caitlin Clark went to the free throw line and shot 3 free throws. As it relates to the poster, you covered that pretty well in terms of potential licensing issue. But what is left out of that is like, hey, the WNBA is controlled by this Marxist mindset that, hey, everybody should get something and you know, we got to share things equitably, equally, blah, blah, blah. And so Diana Taurasi is widely considered the greatest WNBA player of all time.
And here's a detail that complicates the total silence narrative a lot of these stories lean on. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert did eventually respond, condemning what she called hate directed at Thomas, and stating that the league and its security team had been in contact with the Phoenix Mercury organization. According to ESPN reporting, she and Thomas had also exchanged text messages the week before. Whether that response came fast enough or means enough is exactly the debate Smith and others are having in public right now.
Have you ever experienced something like that before?
A couple years ago when we played Indy in the playoffs, same thing, but not to this extent. You know, our families are being threatened, kids are being threatened, people are sending racial slurs and all types of stuff. And, you know, there's a difference between trolling and there's a difference between hatred. And the hatred that we're experiencing over a play that honestly was a complete accident. No one even knew it happened. It's just unfortunate. But, yeah, the league has to do better in this instance.
Clark herself has said almost nothing publicly through any of this. She's officially out for Saturday's game, with coach Stephanie White calling it about her physical and emotional recovery. Not a single dramatic walkout, just a quiet, cautious return-to-play process. So here's the real question underneath all the noise. Was StephenASmith right that the WNBA is wasting its biggest asset out of resentment? Or is Chiney Ogwumike right that this is being blown far out of proportion?
Yeah, but the bigger picture issue here is that, like, in that situation, if you're watching it in real time, both players who are known to make their issues known got up and kept going.
That was my thing.
So that's why I have a problem, because if you're looking at the reaction even to this day, it breaks my heart, because players, even in Alyssa Thomas's caliber, whether you think she did it intentionally or not, she's dealing with a heightened level of vitriol right now based off of what this situation created, and that doesn't sit well with me.
If the NBA is going to review calls, you're saying the WNBA can review calls and act retroactively and make sure that you hand down appropriate punishment where you deem necessary. That's how you get able to police the league. You don't just let the game end and say, okay, well, that happened. There's nothing we can do about it now. The NBA says, no, we'll revisit the situation and we'll come back and revisit you if the film shows us that you're culpable. And that's what the WNBA needs to start doing.
And if you want the next update on this before anyone else covers it, hit subscribe and turn on notifications.